Welcome to this deep dive into one of the most influential figures in psychology, Sigmund Freud. Today, we'll explore his life, his groundbreaking theories, and his enduring impact on the field of psychology. Freud is often referred to as the father of psychoanalysis, a therapeutic approach that continues to shape modern psychological practice. But how did he come to develop such radical ideas about the unconscious mind, human development, and mental health? By the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of Freud's significance, not just in psychology, but in how we understand ourselves. Let's begin by looking at the early life of the man who would change the way we think about the mind. Sigmund Freud was born on May 6, 1856, in the town of Freiberg, which is now part of the Czech Republic. He grew up in Vienna, Austria, the capital of the then Austro-Hungarian Empire, during a time of great intellectual and social change. Freud was the first of 8 children in a Jewish family. His father, Jacob Freud, was a wool merchant, and his mother, Amalia, was much younger than his father. Freud's early life was marked by the intense relationship with his mother and a complicated dynamic with his father. Freud went on to study medicine at the University of Vienna, where he initially trained as a neurologist. During this time, he was introduced to the emerging fields of psychology and psychiatry, and it was here that Freud began to develop his interest in the workings of the mind. He was deeply influenced by his mentor, Jean-Martin Charcot, a neurologist who worked with hypnosis and hysteria. Freud's family relationships had a profound impact on his psychological theories. His bond with his mother Amalia was unusually close, and he often spoke of her in idealized terms. On the other hand, Freud had a strained relationship with his father Jacob, which he later described as a source of deep psychological conflict. One of the most well-known ideas Freud developed was the Oedipus complex, which he believed stemmed from the unconscious rivalry boys feel toward their fathers and their desire for their mother's affection. Freud's own relationship with his father may have influenced this theory, reflecting feelings of ambivalence and competition that are common in family dynamics. Freud's daughter, Anna Freud, would become a major figure in psychoanalysis herself, advancing her father's ideas about the role of defense mechanisms and the development of the ego. Her work, like Freud's, was deeply shaped by their complex family dynamics. Freud's case with Anna began when she was experiencing what he described as psychosomatic symptoms. She developed a persistent, unexplained cough, which Freud believed was the physical manifestation of unconscious emotional conflicts. Drawing on his psychoanalytic techniques, Freud used dream analysis, free association, and an exploration of Anna's early life experiences to probe her unconscious mind. Anna had always been deeply attached to her father, and Freud believed that this attachment, combined with typical developmental issues like the Oedipus complex, was at the root of her psychological symptoms. Freud suggested that Anna's symptoms were connected to repressed emotions about her relationship with him, reflecting the tension between her need for independence and her unconscious desire to maintain closeness to her father. What makes this case particularly fascinating and ethically complex is that Freud was both the therapist and the subject. Analyzing his own daughter posed significant challenges, both in terms of objectivity and the therapist's client boundary. Critics have argued that Freud's role as her father may have biased his analysis, making it harder for him to maintain the clinical distance necessary for an effective therapy. Ultimately, Anna Freud's case illustrates both the power and the limitations of psychoanalysis. While Freud's methods, dream interpretations, free associations, and uncovering repressed thoughts, allow him to make sense of Anna's symptoms, it also highlighted the ethical challenges of psychoanalysis. It raises important questions about the boundaries between personal and professional relationships, especially when the therapist is analyzing someone so close to them. In the end, this case was not only an analysis of a patient, but also a reflection of Freud's own theories in action. Freud's work with Anna Freud remains an important example of how impersonal experiences can both inform and complicate psychological analysis. It reminds us of complexities of applying theory to practice, particularly when it involves intimate familial connections. Now let's take a look into Freud's most famous and foundational theories. At the heart of Freud's work is the idea of the unconscious mind, the belief that much of human behavior is driven by forces outside of our conscious awareness. Freud suggested that our thoughts, feelings, and desires are influenced by unconscious drives, often rooted in early childhood experiences. Another cornerstone of Freud's theory is his model of personality, which includes the id, ego, and the superego. The id is driven by primal instincts and desires. The superego represents internalized societal norms, and the ego functions as a mediator balancing these two forces. Freud also proposed that human development occurs in stages, each centered around different sources of pleasure. These psychosexual stages, oral, anal, phallic, latent, and genital, are key to his theory of personality development. Freud argued that fixation at any stage could lead to psychological issues in adulthood. Lastly, Freud's interpretation of dreams was groundbreaking. He saw dreams as the royal road to the unconscious, where represented desires and unresolved conflicts emerge in symbolic forms. Freud's theories revolutionized the way we think about mental health. His introduction of psychoanalysis as a therapeutic practice was a game changer. In contrast to other treatments of the time, psychoanalysis emphasized talk therapy and the exploration of unconscious processes. Freud believed that by making the unconscious conscious, individuals could resolve inner conflicts and achieve greater psychological well being. Psychoanalysis laid the groundwork for many therapeutic practices that followed, even though some of Freud's methods have been critiqued over time. Techniques like free association, dream analysis, and transference became central to psychoanalytic treatment and continue to influence psychodynamic therapy today. Freud's work was deeply influenced by the cultural and intellectual climate of the late 19th and the early 20th century Europe. Vienna at the time was a hub for new ideas, and Freud's theories emerged alongside shifts in art, literature, and philosophy. His ideas on human sexuality, repression, and the unconscious resonated with artists and writers, influencing movements like surrealism and existentialism. Freud's work also impacted popular culture, with terms like Freudian sleep and Oedipus complex entering common parlance. While Freud's contributions were revolutionary, his theories have not been without criticism. Many contemporary psychologists argue that Freud's ideas were limited by gender bias and cultural constraints. Freud's emphasis on male sexuality and his characterization of women as inherently passive or hysterical have been widely criticized. Additionally, Freud's methods of research were often criticized for being unscientific and subjective. His reliance on case studies, particularly from his work with women, have been challenged for lack of empirical support. Freud's therapeutic methods also raised ethical concerns. His practice of maintaining a distant, almost authoritarian role in therapy has been critiqued for not respecting boundaries between therapist and patient. Additionally, Freud's use of hypnosis, especially with women, have been called into question for ethical reasons. Also, it is important to note that Freud's work did not develop in a vacuum. His ideas were shaped by the intellectual and political environment of the time, including the rise of Darwinian theory and advances in neurology. Freud's theories provided a new lens through which an understanding of the mind and of human behavior was possible, challenging prevailing views about consciousness and mental illness. Today, Freud's influence is still felt in modern psychotherapy, particularly in psychodynamic therapy, which emphasizes the importance of early childhood experiences and unconscious processes. Though many of Freud's specific ideas have been critiqued or modified, his overall contributions to the field is undeniable. Psychoanalysis has also paved the way for new therapeutic approaches, including cognitive behavioral therapy, that continue to evolve. In my view, Freud's work remains a crucial part of psychological history. His focus on the unconscious mind and the complexities of human sexuality opened up new ways of thinking about mental health and development. Though some of his theories have been debunked or revised, his emphasis on the importance of early experiences and the mind's hidden forces continues to influence both research and therapy today. As someone in the field of psychology or as an educator, Freud's ideas about the unconscious and human development can guide how I approach both therapy and teaching. For example, understanding how early life experiences shape behavior can inform my work with students or clients, helping them explore and resolve conflicts or unconscious patterns. Sigmund Freud's legacy in psychology is undeniable. He pioneered the exploration of the unconscious mind, reshaped our conception of mental health, and laid the groundwork for many modern therapeutic practices. Though his theories continue to be debated, Freud's influence on the field of psychology remains profound. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Freud's life and work. If you're intrigued by his ideas, I encourage you to explore his writings further and reflect on how his theories might still resonate with the way we understand the human psyche today. Thank you and see you in my next video.